Hey, we are live May 15th, ladies and gentlemen. The Ides of May. You don't hear that too often. You just hear the Ides of March. March is the only one that gets the Ides thing. I'm not even sure.
Are Ides for every month?
You know what? I don't know.
What is an Ide?
I always assumed the Ides meant it was March the 15th because Ides of March is March 15th. And so I assume every 15th is the Ides, but I don't know. I mean, in that case, I was born on the Ides of November, but I don't know exactly what it means. What's the Google machine say?
Yeah, I mean, it's just saying the Ides of March is the day on the Roman calendar, but like, I'm not seeing that it's like 15 every single time. I'm just hearing, what is the Ides? Ides is actually a day that comes about every month, not just in March. Hold on, guys, we're learning something new here.
It's the middle of the month.
In a 31 day, yeah, okay. So it is just the middle day of the month.
Interesting. That's weird because March is 31 days, so there is no middle day. That's odd.
They just pick 15, I guess.
I guess you gotta pick. It's like having your birthday on February 29th or something. Yeah, most months wouldn't have an Ides at all because let's see, September, April, June, November, and February. 5 months out of 12 have an actual Ides, and the rest. Well, February wouldn't have an Ides every fourth year on the 29th. That's 29 days, so it wouldn't have an Ides. Oh, Tweedledee's excited. I forgot to see. Where was our comment there? Tweedledee, if you're
excited. I'm glad that this riveting conversation.
I know, right? These are pretty fun. They are pretty fun. I like these tangents we go in. So since we're on the calendar, Caesar, I mean the Julian calendar, no surprise that was Julius Caesar. But before Caesar said we got to put a stop to this calendar nonsense because it was out of control. They didn't have a process for like catching leap years. And so the calendar just kept moving. It just kept migrating. And they were having it was spring in winter or something. It just seems like, no, fuck this. And they actually, put it in a system. They actually didn't even have months for January and February. They weren't labeled. They were just this like shitty cold weather season no one cared about. And you can see how it's left over because
you never talk to anyone because it's just too cold.
Yeah, it just sucked. No one liked it.
When am I going to see you? Well, not in fucking February.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you for goddamn sure. It's not going to be. So they only had 10 months, and you can still see the remnants of this because December is the last month. But December in Latin means 10th month. You can tell with the DEC. Yeah. And November means 9th month. September means 7th month. October means 8th month. The rest of them are all kind of jumbled. But the first month was March. And then they named March after Mars, the god of war. I don't know what April is named after or May.
July was just Julius. Like that
July is named after Julius Caesar.
Yeah. I know that was one of them they added.
And August is named after Augustus Caesar.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so, but they just had to come up with January and February because okay, we should probably label these months here. there's like 60 days here that no one's got anything listed. So
all men do is get together, they start a podcast and talk about the Roman Empire. That's
eventually it gets to it. Listen, the Roman Empire is pretty goddamn cool though. I mean, if you're
going to be obsessed with something, the Roman Empire is also my favorite example. I'm talking like a libertarian about like, these are the things that we need government for. Like basically everything the Roman Empire did, or at least codified, like standardized axle lengths Roman Empire did. You know what fucking chaos there would be if we didn't have standardized axle lengths and road lengths? Everyone just had different fucking length cars and size cars. You know what chaos would be if not everyone used the same fucking calendar? Like there was a I forget exactly what it was, but there was this international space mission that like we sent a satellite, I think to Jupiter. It was like Jupiter or Mars, and then all of a sudden, like we think that we're like far away from the planet, and then we just track the satellite, and it's because there was communication between two teams from here and Europe that like didn't realize they were using different measurement units, and so the satellite just crashed into the fucking planet and died because they didn't understand how far it was. And that shit would happen all the time without government standardizing measurements and time and all of these things. Like, how would we ever go about that? And if you're going to say, oh, the private sector would figure out eventually, yeah, maybe. but also they're going to manipulate it to their advantage, and it's going to be constantly changing all the time. Like, you know this is going to happen. Like,
and that would be incredibly inconvenient for the consumer if everyone had their different. I'm using Musk units, and you're using Bezos units. You know,
exactly.
It's all over the fucking
and then you
place.
have to transfer them and probably pay a fee to a bank to transfer Musk units to Bezos units.
That would just open up another market, man. That opened up someone to do the translating. It'd be perfect. It's like, oh god, that's a libertarian's thing. They actually see everything in a market. That's our fault though. That miscommunication. Look, just use the metric system, people, or whatever, Celsius or whatever we were doing that we fucked it up on. We're like the only people that still use this ridiculous system where a foot is 12. Well, a foot, you know, what is it based on? The length of some king's foot from 1,000 years ago. That's what it's based on. It's absurd.
It's all dumb except for temperature. We nailed temperature, in my opinion. Absolutely keep Fahrenheit for standard human temperatures.
So that's the thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So for human temperatures, Fahrenheit, I don't know. Then again, I grew up in Fahrenheit, so it seems normal to me because like 0 degrees Celsius is based on when water freezes, and 100 degrees Celsius is based on when water boils. But it's all built around water, which doesn't really apply to us. Like, you know, Fahrenheit's built around us. Like, what is this? Like, what is that?
It's like Fahrenheit's like 2.5 degrees essentially, and like the other way. A Celsius degree is like something like 2.5 degrees, something like that. So like, if my room temperature is set at 68 versus 71. Those are two major different room temperatures in my brain. And in Celsius, they are the same fucking temperature. And I just can't abide by that.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. 1 degree Celsius is a major shift. That's a good point. I was talking about what the Romans and things they standardized. Military weapons or military being issued military weapons was a big one too, because back in the ancient times, it was time for war. You just showed up to the battlefield with whatever you had. Like your armor was the armor you made for yourself or the weapon you brought. And the Romans were like, no, everyone's going to get a short sword. Everyone's going to get, you know, a spear. Everyone gets so. And they had like, I found this thing where someone was laughing at how the government's always ripping you off. And it showed a Roman soldier's pay. Like someone found like this old parchment and a Roman soldier had his pay and he was paid like 50 denarii or something. And it said base pay, 50 denarii. Cost of your sword, 25 denarii. Cost of your food, 15 denarii. And anyway, everything they issued him equaled his pay, so he didn't get a dime. But so I was like, yeah, that does seem shitty, but for 2,000 years ago, it was incredible. No one got that kind of treatment.
You just don't have to like do anything, and the government just provides for you. All you gotta do is go kill those people. Hey, you're gonna do that anyway.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Your pay was the spoils. Like once we conquer this town, you're gonna go in and take all the shit you can find back home. That was your actual pay. And one more thing,
had some ethical dilemmas associated.
Oh my God, did it? Yeah, because a lot of the things you found were people, and you just took them back as slaves. But one more thing Caesar did. So I was talking to someone last week about this. Caesar and look, Caesar was a dictator. Like he was a power-hungry tyrant. There is no denying it. He was also, however, absolutely fucking right about everything he said when it came to the Roman government, because the Roman Republic was facing a problem back in about 55 BC, 65 BC. And the problem was the Roman Empire had a giant population of slaves because of all the conquering and everything. And which was great for the aristocrats. It was great for the people who had a lot of land and a lot of money. The problem was that all the jobs in Rome were being taken over by the slave population, which meant that your average Roman citizen had no money. They couldn't work and they were starving. So Caesar comes along and says, hey, I got an idea. He says, I'm going to be in charge for a while. I'm going to be a dictator, and I'm going to implement like a Tennessee Valley Authority New Deal style, like public work system. We're going to build aqueducts. We're going to construct buildings. We're going to build roads. We're going to have administrative jobs. And there will be slaves will be barred from doing these jobs. These jobs can only be done by Roman citizens, and they'll be paid for it so they can survive. And to pay for this, I'm going to tax the only people who have money, which are the rich and the wealthy. Now, this obvious plan that saved Rome from collapse made him very popular with the common man in Rome. but the aristocrats fucking hated it. Like, they hated the fact that he raised their taxes more than the fact that he became a dictator. And they fucking stabbed him in the face for it. Like, that's when they got Caesar killed, was like, dude, he was right. He was 100% right on that. I mean, yeah, the whole dictator thing, not cool, but you guys weren't going to do shit about it. So yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Caesar when it comes to that, because he was right.
Well, I mean, so throughout history, there have been enlightened despots that have definitely been positive. The system process of having enlightened despots overall is going to give you net worse results than democracy. But every once in a while, an enlightened despot finds his way, and it can be helpful. That being said, I do think that it's really funny, just like, you can apply that mindset to now, and it's exactly what we should do, and it also doesn't happen. It's very frustrating that Julius Caesar figured this out thousands of years ago, and so to such an extent that, like, he's the dude, maybe the most important dude in history. For just basic shit, tax the rich.
Honestly, it wasn't rocket science.
Get rid of the slaves, and use public funds to create public works. That like it's a very simple process that you can copy and paste to any era, any civilization, and it's probably going to be beneficial. And that's why we still eat salads with his name on it today. and it's we don't do it. We just can't figure it out. Like, it really, like China, and China has a lot of fucked up shit. But like, one of the things that China did that, like, I don't understand why we don't just copy, is having a set plan for economic recessions where they build shit. So instead of, oh shit, there's an economic recession, we're just gonna bail everyone out. It's like, no, they planned. They're like, okay, so whenever we need to provide stimulus, we're going to build a shitload of high-speed rail, or we're going to build a whole new fucking city. And instead of just giving away the money, we're going to have a plan to how to use it. And it had issues with the high-speed rail in particular that is now coming to bear. But, like, it was still better than what we did, where we just gave all of our money to the banks and asked for nothing in return. And I don't understand why we haven't just copy that, because it would probably make everyone happy. Like it's stimulus, which we're going to do anyway, so like we might as well get something out of it, make people work for their stimulus. Conservatives will love that. Fucking businesses will love it because we're like building infrastructure and shit, and normal people will love it because it's good. It's good. It's going to make their lives better. So like it's one of those things where I'm like, how have we not copied that yet? Fucking Julius Caesar thought of it.
I didn't know that about China. I didn't know that they had an automatic system in place for recessions. Jesus, we've had like 3 in the last 20 years. You think?
And every time we're just like, oh shit, who could have seen this coming?
What are we going to do? And like the whole cycle of recessions thing is like, it's what I point to a lot when people are like, capitalism. Like, sure, it's not perfect, but the best we can do. Really? Like ever increasing, decreasing cycles of recession since 1920. They keep happening at a quicker and quicker rate. I mean, that doesn't seem stable to me. That doesn't seem like a good idea. And yeah, we really, it's kind of shocking. I mean, I say this all the time, but I have no respect for conservatives except for their hustle, man. Like the fact that in the last 40 years, they have successfully turned a significant portion of Americans completely against the idea that the government should help you when you're in trouble is incredible. Because if you think about it, like, why do we even bother with this whole human civilization thing in the first place? Like, the only reason we're doing this is to keep us alive longer than nature would have kept us alive. That's the only reason we're doing this. And people are actively turning against it. Like that's some world-class S-series propaganda right there. Yeah, you got to give it up for them for that.
It really is. It's very effective, and it makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's just like, there's a Chick-fil-A quote from the founder of Chick-fil-A that goes something like, food is necessary to life, therefore make it good. I know this.
I like that.
Yeah, no, they put it on the walls of Chick-fil-A. I do like that. And I feel like the government is the same way. Government is necessary to life. As we just discussed, for all of the reasons the Roman Empire was necessary, you need some form of government. And so if you're going to have government, just make it good. Like, make it work as good as it possibly can. And somehow the conservative mindset is government is bad, limit it as much as possible, which really doesn't make sense because they don't actually believe that. Like,
nope, they sure don't.
If you like walked up to a middle fucking nowhere Kansas town and we're like, hey, you got to start paying to send your kids to school now. They wouldn't really like that, you know. Hey, you got to start paying to use these roads. The Americans would revolt. But no, we should just leave it all up to the private sector. I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
I know but they will say this, but when it's actually time to implement it, they know it'll fall apart. Like that, I've heard people actually say this, like, well, you know, I don't believe that, you know, the state should be responsible for educating kids. I was like, really? Like, you want to live in a world where it's just up to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there to make sure their kid gets a proper education. All right, 20 years from now, you're going to be stuck with a population of millions of people who can't read. That's what you're going to be stuck with. Like, these parents, you think they're all going to be responsible and or afford to send their kids to school.
Yeah, and they're just not going to. And then we're going to have a dumber population. And then we're going to be less productive. And then we're going to have less money. Like, and it's so kids, obvious.
They're going to be stealing from you in 15 years. That's what's going to happen. Because they're not going to have the skills to be gainfully employed. Like, you will collapse human society with that kind of thinking. But I don't know. It's mainly because they don't want money going to certain people. That's what it really comes down to. Like, honestly, it's... Yeah, that's really what it's about. I forgot one more thing, the Roman Empire, going back 5 minutes conversation, but another thing they standardized, it's actually incredible, the shit that they did. It's why they were so successful as a military force for, you know, rules and regulations and record keeping. And the mile came from the Roman Empire. Like, the mile was based on how far I think a Roman legion could realistically walk in a certain period of, like, during a certain period of time. And I remember when I was in Jordan, I think I went to a Roman road, like one of those 1,000-year-old Roman roads they have. And there were like mile markers there. And I asked them, hey, like, they had mile markers? Like, yeah, they actually had odometers. They had a machine that could actually rotate, like how many times until they hit 1 mile, and they hit markers. And so I was like, holy shit, like they really had their shit put together back then. It's reason they lasted so long. So yeah, you know, maybe you shouldn't think of the Roman Empire all the time, but there's plenty to think about. Let's not it was like
it existed for thousands of years. There's certainly plenty to think about there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of historical things that get over discussed, particularly by the men of our species. World War II.
Oh, God. Yes. God damn it.
So I made a TikTok today, and I put a lot of extra effort. It's like a 5-minute long TikTok. Because Lindsey Graham.
I saw that.
Yeah. So Lindsey Graham went on Meet the Press and essentially said we should nuke Gaza, like Israel should nuke Gaza, which, let's set aside the physical implications of Israel dropping a nuke on a city within its own territory. Like, he's like, America did it and we were right to do it, so why would it be wrong for Israel to do it? And it really starkly was just like, God, the propaganda we fucking teach in schools.
Yeah.
That nuking the fucking Japanese, we either had to nuke them or do a land invasion. There was absolutely nothing in the middle of those two things, and we had to choose the nuke, or else we would have killed more people with the land invasion. And I honestly think it is a basis for so much propaganda to go unnoticed, because so many Americans believe that to be true. And it's an utter fucking lie. Are you like well versed in the whole fucking nuke thing?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I remember. I think every high school has this conversation, or in middle school. And tell me if this is any different from what you were taught, because I was taught. Once again, Truman didn't want to do a land invasion because it would cost more Japanese and American lives than just dropping the nukes and making the Japanese surrender. And I was like, oh, okay. I bought it like everybody else did. And it wasn't until years, like decades later. And I was thinking, I was like, well, hold on, wait a minute. And you read about this, and Japan was already on the decline. They were going to surrender. Like, we had them choked off. Germany was defeated. Their allies are gone. Japan was only going to last so long in this position. You could have negotiated a way out of it, and we ended up doing it anyway. They wanted to save some face, and then I found out, oh yeah, Truman dropped the nukes to flex on the USSR. That's why he dropped the nukes. Like, he wanted them to know exactly how much firepower he had. It's like, yeah, okay, this war is coming to close in a few months. Do not fuck with us because we have nuclear weapons now. And that was the main reason for it. And the whole, oh, we were so worried about no, not really it. And the firebomb example, I don't know if we talked about that before, that the firebombs could have been just as effective. But then I thought later, it's like, oh, that's still killing like thousands of civilians at a time or some shit. Not much better, but at least there's no nuclear fallout in that option. But yeah, there were other options, and we went with the monstrous one. Yeah, so that's what I.
It's very similar to the whole Israel-Gaza-Palestine conflict thing, because it's one of those things where the more you read about it, the more it becomes abundantly clear how much we've been lied to. Because like it just, every time you learn something, you say, oh, okay, well, this is a reasonable objection I have. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, that they were fucked up about that too. Like you mentioned, like the Russians. It's like the Russians had actually agreed with FDR to declare war on Japan and force a surrender. And then FDR died like 2 months, 3 months later, and Truman was like, fuck that. I don't want them to surrender to Russia. I want them to surrender to us. We have these nukes. Let's fucking use them. Literally, the Potsdam Declaration, Russia was supposed to sign it, and they just released it without letting Russia know. And Russia sent a message to us that, like, hey, we want to sign that too. And it just, our Secretary of State Burns just never got it. He's like, oh, well, I just missed that. And sorry, guys. And then they invade, they declare war, and then the next day we bomb fucking Hiroshima, or was it Nagasaki?
It was Hiroshima first, yeah.
And it was the Japanese were just like, fuck it. Well, we don't give a shit because you've been firebombing all of our cities. We don't care if we lose more cities. Literally, the fucking emperor just said, yeah, we just didn't want a land invasion because you're going to steal our fucking shit. Like the imperial, the emperor's like new clothes or whatever the fuck the imperial and like it's just like, so dropping the bombs, not only was it not that false dichotomy, but it has come out through like the fucking if you ever look at the what was it called, the Allied bombing survey, basically, and like fucking General MacArthur and like so many military advisors are like, yeah, the nukes are completely unnecessary. We had aerial superiority. They were going to surrender to someone eventually. All we really needed to do was tell them that they could keep the emperor, which we ended up doing anyway. But Truman was basically just like, yeah, I want it to like look like an unconditional surrender. It needs to look good politically, and so we're going to nuke 2 fucking cities to make me look good and also scare the Russians, which obviously didn't scare the Russians, or it did scare the Russians. It scared them into a nuclear.
In a way, it did.
But it's really one of the worst decisions in human history.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned how FDR had this plan, and then Truman stepped in and said, "No, fuck that." Isn't it messed up that can just happen? That the president dies, new president. All right. Changing the entire course. Like, one person should not have that kind of authority. I'm sorry. Like this thing that we have that the president can just like, yeah, I'm the commander in chief. Like, he's a fucking general. He's not. And it's like, yep, this is what we're doing. I don't need to consult with anybody. We're not going to have a body to vote on this shit. I'm just moving forward with it, and fuck what the old president said. That's wild that can happen.
I really don't understand why we don't have like emergency elections when a president dies. Like if a president dies in the 4th year of his term and the VP like needs to be like just settle it out, that's fine. But if a president dies like year 1 of his term, I really don't understand why the VP is just president for the rest of the term. Like, why not just have an election the next year?
I never thought about that, actually.
It happens. It happens so infrequently that it doesn't seem like a major problem that we need to solve. But like, it fucking could be. And in this situation, it also wouldn't have solved the problem. Like in any situation, you needed a president. Truman was the guy.
Honestly,
I don't know how else you do that. But
honestly, it's just easier to do it this way. I think that's just it. It's just like, oh man, we got to do because God, that sounds like a lot of fucking work. And let's just we have it in good, even 4-year blocks now. We don't want to fuck with this. So I can kind of see the simplicity of 4-year terms. One of you guys is finishing this term. All right. It's going to happen. We're not going to have some special shit. Cause when that happens in the Senate and everything, it's weird. It's all weird and confusing. It's okay, so we have, I guess if a senator dies, the governor appoints the senator to finish. There's no vice senator or something, so they got to appoint someone, or there'll be a special election in some cases. But yeah, I never really thought about why we just don't go with the special election and everything.
Mm-hmm. And speaking, by the way, of what you just said, it's crazy that someone just dies and someone takes over, and that FDR dying in that particular moment changed the course of human history. And I've said it many times on this show. I'm just incredibly worried that that's going to happen to Biden. FDR was 20 years younger than Biden when he died.
Oh, that's insane.
If Biden dies at some point between now and November, that will also change the course.
Game over. Game over.
Trump takes over, and
the
only thing I could maybe hope for in that scenario is that Trump has a sort of lame duckish presidency where he can't get the forces that he requires to enact a fascist takeover to actually stick with him, because he didn't really there would be open questions, but still I see the bad path laid out before me.
Yeah,
and it's very scary. And it starts with Biden dying in fucking September.
This kind of ties us back to where we started in the beginning, that Donald Trump is like the polar opposite of Julius Caesar. If you look at, he's like a bizarro Julius Caesar. He is the same, instincts to seize as much power as possible. He has no fucking clue what to do with it. You read about what Caesar did before he was a politician. He was an accomplished general, a writer. And this is how Julius Caesar had his shit together, is because he's one of the most recorded human beings in history. We have tons of records written by him, his campaigns. Mm-hmm. We have stuff written about him by his generals, by his friends, his opponents, and his enemies. And to a man, they all say, yeah, fuck this guy, but damn, is he good. That's how you know you're good. When everyone, no matter who they are, has nothing but
it's like Tom Brady. It's fuck him, I hate him, but I have to admit, he's really good.
Trump has that by his sycophants and everything, but everyone else who isn't this guy's a fucking moron. There's nothing about it.
Everyone who works with him doesn't want to work with him.
Yeah, there's nothing impressive about him whatsoever. And this is why it's so weird that I can't. He has a cult built around him, and I can't think of anyone less deserving of a cult than Donald Trump, and he has one. I
can think of a few, but yeah, that I agree with you. It does blow my mind that this is the guy they latched on to. I don't get it. I really there were better options. If you wanted, if I was a conservative who fucking was racist and hated Obama, I don't know why Trump is my guy. I really don't.
Well, I think the one reason is because the money. Is that if you're a conservative, you believe that the more money you have, the better person you are. And I mean, not always, but generally that's true. If you're rich, you are the best person. You've won at life. So why would I listen to these other 15 losers on stage? He's the rich guy. I mean, that's the guy. They've crafted 100 years of going with this philosophy. And that's just the base conservatives, though. But a lot of Trump supporters aren't necessarily political. They're just people who it's the TV man. It's the funny guy, Donald Trump. And he got a lot of support there. So it was this perfect mix. And then he won. And they see him as this magic figure that they have to follow. We caught lightning in a bottle with this guy. So I would just be so embarrassed. But then again, because I'm smart. And if I was conservative, I wouldn't be. So, that just kind of goes with it, I think. I don't know.
I was just thinking, I feel like Elon Musk deserves his cult. Elon Musk, I understand the
more deserving than Trump, definitely.
Yeah, it's just he actually accomplished things and did things, and he's also racist, and he's also very good at just kind of playing a shell game to continue infinite growth, and not actually building anything himself. Like he has all of the cult leader things that makes sense. Donald Trump just, I don't think he didn't try to like develop. I guess he kind of did. Now that I'm thinking back to it, like he did develop a cult of personality before he entered politics.
Yes.
Kind of just used the lessons he got from like being a grifter and like reality. Like he just built a brand off of his name, and that's kind of what a cult is. And he just entered into politics. Like I actually can't think of another person who just like did that, like just total brand off their name that was that big.
What Trump has, that's the most important thing for the cult that Elon doesn't have, is charisma. Like Trump is like great on stage, and he's funny, and you know he knows how to talk to people. And Elon Musk, like all the money in the world, and he has no clue how to talk to people. Like his biggest mistake was making himself a public figure, and Trump lives to be a public figure, so he's more suited for the role, at least in appearances. So I think that's what put Trump ahead. And that I'm trying to think of another example of someone who just built a cult of personality and then just dove into politics. I'm trying. There's got to be a good example somewhere, but
I like Ross Perot is kind of like an example, I guess, but he kind of he definitely built it. Like he was always like, I don't want to do it, but that was part of his fucking shtick. I feel like that's the only other example I can think of that like
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse
Ventura.
I'm not as well versed in Jesse Ventura, but I feel like
so Jesse Ventura in the old days was a pro wrestler. He was always on TV wrestling, and he was an actor. He was like in Predator and shit. And so he had a personality as Jesse the Body Ventura before he ever stepped into politics. And so like that's how I knew him. It would be like Macho Man Randy Savage running for Senate or something like
Arnold Schwarzenegger would kind of
Schwarzenegger. That's a good one too. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. But I guess Arnold Schwarzenegger did very much build a brand for him, because there's like a difference between like you did something else and were famous for it and entered politics and specifically built a cult of personality around yourself. I don't necessarily feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger did that much. As like, he just was famous and had a brand. I don't think he like built. He just did movies. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's not like Trump like went out of the way to build the Trump brand name. He protects it like fucking Apple. You know what I mean?
I think that Schwarzenegger's a little different because he was famous, but before he did movies as Mr. Olympia, and he put bodybuilding on the map. Like before the 1970s, body was some weird thing people did in garages somewhere, and it became like say what?
It still is a weird thing.
It became like a more like people knew what the hell it was and everything. So he kind of built his name up a long way even before he was acting. So I mean, it's not Trump level, but he's from fucking Austria and something. Like it's amazing. It's honestly incredible. He's as famous in the country as he is. Like given his roots, and like he has that thick ass accent, and
he couldn't speak English for like half of his career.
It's wild. It's wild, man. Yeah, hats off to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like truly the American dream. Like
I do respect the shit out of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like I'm sure he's not a perfect person, but I have a lot of respect for that man.
And a name like most people can't even pronounce. I mean, look, everything was stacked against him pretty much, and he found a way to make it. That's fantastic.
Sheer force of will.
Speaking of jump back to World War II, I wrote this down. I forgot to mention one weird thing about World War II or the ending is that it's kind of amazing to think about how good of an allies we are with Japan and Germany today. World War II was not that long ago, man. Like it was not that long ago. Like, there are plenty of people today alive who were alive in 1945. Like it's not that long ago, and they're two of our best allies on planet Earth. That's pretty amazing, considering everything.
So Germany makes a little more sense to me. So because like as much as like they were fucking awful, the Nazis, like we kind of did that. Like and by we I mean the international community, the Western community kind of did that to Germany. Like we absolutely crushed them economically after World War I, and then Hitler rose to power out of that fucking turmoil, and then all of that happened. And so it's a little bit like okay, we can return back to where we were and assist each other, and that's the way we should move forward. And that does make sense to me. That it kind of went about like that. And to the Germans' credit, they kind of mea culpa, they got rid of the
look
they gave us their scientists.
Gabe, huh? They've been surprisingly cool since World War II. I would say suspiciously cool, because I don't buy it, man. I don't buy it for a goddamn second. You guys don't like kick off 2 world wars in like 30 years and then get off the hook for 80 years of good behavior. No, I still got my eye on Germany. I'm watching out for them, man. I don't buy it.
It is. Yeah. Japan is the one that confuses me. Like, genuinely, Japan was probably worse than Nazi Germany, like in the sense that like it wasn't kind of a flash, because World War I was, again, also not really Germany's fault. Like,
right,
it was a whole clusterfuck. World War II was Germany's fault, but like, but also the circumstances, as I said, that led to it being Germany's fault were a direct consequence of what we did to Germany after World War I. So like, it's with Japan though, they just kind of were an imperial colonial force that was raping and pillaging their way across a large landmass. And it was really, really bad. And then they just kind of stopped. They're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're good. We'll get rid of our military. You take care of it. And the turn on the dime there, because they also maintained the same leadership for, more or less like the same. They never fucking mea culpa. Like they never were like, yeah, our bad, we shouldn't have done that. Like they just kind of were like, yeah, no, America, you're our daddy now, and we will do what you say, and that worked for everyone. And they're the ones that I would like not trust so much, because fuck, they never even admitted they were wrong.
It is wild, because Japan doesn't get nearly enough shit for what they did during World War II.
It was the greatest thing that ever happened to Japan.
Oh my God. It's the greatest thing that happened to Imperial Japan, because you read. So George Bush Sr. was a fighter pilot or a bomber pilot, one of the two. I can't remember, during World War II. And him and his co-pilot were shot down above Japan and taken prisoner. And the Japanese executed and ate his co-pilot. Like he was rescued before it happened to him, but this is the shit that Japan was doing, man. You can find videos, or not videos, you can find pictures of the Japanese military having like prisoners of war on their knees, and like guys with swords, and they were beheading them and shit. And read about the rape of Nanking and what the Japanese did to the Chinese. It is what was that medical unit they had where they did all the torture shit? Do you remember what that was called?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah, so there's we have a lot of scientific breakthroughs that we found out because of the work of the Nazis.
Oh yes, like the fucking like, that's how we know how much water's in a human body.
Exactly,
because they dehydrated humans.
Yeah, the Japanese did that. I forget what the name of the medical unit they did these horrible experiments were, but yeah, they do not get nearly enough shit Unit for all the stuff that they. Unit 731. Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, that it's awful shit, man. So you're right. They get off the hook scot-free on that, and a lot of it was because the Japanese were looking for respect, which is ironic to me that they were acted like fucking animals and everything. Because Japan started growing into a world power. Narrator, what's up, my man? I assume you're a man. Actually, I'd never asked. But Japan rewrote.
I have always assumed narrator's a man, but that is very, very sexist to me. Just
very sexist.
The guy speaking. That's got to be a dude.
Japan rewrote the history, so a lot of Japanese leave it off. No way. Well, actually, that's what everyone does. Like, and now I think, why am I surprised?
We're talking about how America did that with the news.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
It's pretty started.
Hard for the course. But Japan started rising as a power back in the early 1900s, and they first tested their strength against Manish. All right, I can dig it. Against the Russians in 1908, and I think the Russians had control of Korea, the Korean Peninsula, and the Japanese wanted it for themselves, and so they kicked off the Russo-Japanese War. And the Russians were like, "Fucking Japan, are you kidding me? They're taking us on." And they had a hard time. Like, Japan was actually putting up a good fight, and they were winning. But I think it was like a stalemate-ish. Like, Russia got some embarrassing losses, and they brought Teddy Roosevelt over to negotiate terms between those two armies. And that's when Japan got put on the map. Like, holy shit, they can take on the Russians? These guys mean business. And after that, they tried to get like I think it was like a proto League of Nations thing they were putting together. Mm-hmm. And Japan's like, hey guys, we're a powerful military. Can we come? Like, fuck you. This is for Europeans only. And so then Japan said, well, I guess we'll take it seriously since we're not white. We need to start becoming a colonial power, and that's when they started expanding out from that. So once again, it traces back to white supremacy in a weird way. The Japanese wanted to prove their value by being savage as possible to impress the Europeans. It's kind of crazy.
Honestly, again, our bad. Yeah, we should have set that example, guys. You're clearly very good at it. We shouldn't.
Guys, wow, god damn.
You gained our respect.
Oh yeah, it's fucked up. That's some fucked up shit.
Took 2 nukes to the face.
Yeah,
and you were still saying you want. They were like the fucking Black Knight in goddamn
Monty Python.
Holy Grail. Like they took 2 nukes, and still, like I want to make this clear. It did not change the stalemate in the Japanese government. Like the 2 nukes did not change a single person's mind in that government. The emperor was just like, I've had enough.
Yeah, that is insanity, man. Did you ever hear that story about that one guy who was at Hiroshima when the nuke dropped and survived, and then he was at Nagasaki too when it dropped and survived? Yeah, I should hold. Let me find out.
I don't even care if that's real. I'm gonna believe that it is. that dude, he created Godzilla. He fucked a fish, and that's how Godzilla happened.
All right, I can't pronounce his name, but it's Tsutomu Yamaguchi. Let's see. He was a 29-year-old naval engineer, the only person in history known to have survived 2 atomic bombs.
Well, yeah, there's only so many that experience. He might be the only one to have experienced 2 atomic bombs.
Yeah, that's some wild shit. Let's go find the story maybe on this guy. Let's see. And he was in Hiroshima. He was 29 years old, preparing to leave when the first atomic bomb fell. Let's see. Wow, he spent the summer looking for work hours, tankers. Where did he go in Nagasaki? Well, I can't find what he was doing at Nagasaki too. But man, talk about bad fucking luck. That's talking about or great luck, I guess, depending on how you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
If I'm very much not a religious person, but if I got hit by 2 nukes, I'd be like, you know what? I'm finding a God, I'm believing him, and I'm praying to him, and I'm saying I'm sorry for whatever I did to offend you.
Right. I would start believing in God or Satan. One of the two. Definitely, it'd have to be definitely one of them. All right. So,
like, how can you not think that like the world is about you? You get hit by a first nuke ever. It's like, shit, what happened to a lot of people? Go to fucking Nagasaki. Ooh, nuke. Can you imagine like the fucking moral dilemma that dude was in, where he's like, where do I go now?
I know. Right? You'd live in the forest or something.
You go live in the woods.
So it says, despite being on the verge of collapse, Yamaguchi dragged himself out of bed on the morning of August 9th and reported to work at Mitsubishi's Nagasaki office. Around 11 a.m., he found himself in a meeting with a company director who demanded a full report on Hiroshima. The engineer recounted the scattered events of August 6th, the blinding light, the deafening boom, but a superior accused him of being mad. How could a single bomb destroy an entire city? Boy, what a horrible question to ask, buddy. Yamaguchi was trying to explain himself when the landscape outside suddenly exploded with another iridescent white flash. Yamaguchi dropped to the ground. I should be laughing. Yamaguchi dropped to the ground just seconds before the shockwave shattered the office. Windows sent broken glass and debris careening through the room. I thought the mushroom cloud had followed me from Hiroshima. God damn, poor guy. Wow. The atomic bomb.
You would think it's just the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Because he had to have been dreaming about that every night. I mean, only been a couple days, I think, since then. Like, how could you not? That's awful. That poor dude.
Yeah, no, again, it's not that we're laughing because like we're laughing at the dude. It's just it's such a fucked up situation that how can you not laugh? Like, you got to get through it somehow.
The bomb that hit Nagasaki was even more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima, but as Yamaguchi would later learn, the city's hilly landscape and reinforced stairwell had combined to muffle the blast inside the office. His bandages were blown off, insult to injury, and he was hit by yet another surge of cancer-causing radiation, but he emerged relatively unhurt. For the second time in 3 days, he had the misfortune of being within 2 miles of a nuclear explosion. For the second time, he'd been fortunate enough to survive. That is wild, man. That is insane shit. That poor bastard.
I'm just saying, if anyone nukes Philadelphia, I would like to just die in the blast.
Right.
I would like to not survive that.
Yeah.
I don't want to live with the consequences of having gotten near hit by a nuke.
Yeah, I wonder how he died. Like, I imagine he got cancer.
Probably.
Yeah, I imagine he got. Let's see. How long did he live?
Or just killed himself.
Whoa! He lived till 2010.
No fucking way.
He was like 94. Let me see.
How have they not made a movie about this guy?
93. My math is off by 1 year. He was 93. The nuclear bombs couldn't even kill this dude.
Dude. I need to learn more about this dude. I need to read a fucking. Please tell me he wrote an autobiography or something.
The craziest thing to me isn't the second tag. The first tag, he went to. Oh, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. He was at work 3 days after the first attack. That I did laugh when it said his boss was asking for a run. Although I can't kind of see that. If I just lived through a nuclear bomb, it's like, yo, I need to hear about this shit. Like, a lot of people would want to know what's going on. My boss wouldn't be high on the list, though. Let's see. They did. It was called Unbreakable. Oh, okay. They just whitewashed it. No.
Unbreakable wasn't about it. No, that's a joke, right? Unbreakable is about a real person, isn't it?
I never saw Unbreakable. What's Unbreakable?
It's the thing that he holds the fucking piece of wood over his head. That's all I remember about it. I had a fucking coach that watched the movie and just kept being like, this dude.
Oh, he says it's a joke. It's a joke.
Log over his head.
Narrator said it was a joke. It wasn't about
Unbroken.
Unbroken.
Yeah.
I
never watched the movie.
But god damn, that is fucking wild, man. Yeah, it's whew, that is crazy shit. Man, why did I have this written down? You said the world. You'd have no choice but to think the world is about you. Mm-hmm. I think about this a lot of times with superstition and religion. It's all based upon way less evidence that the world must be all about me. Mm-hmm. And I say this about astrology. That so as I hope most of you know, astrology is fucking nonsense. It's absurd. It's absurd, but a lot of people believe it, and it's harmless, I guess, but it's ridiculous. But astrology makes sense if you believe that the Earth is the center of the universe. Like, if you believe that the Earth is the center of the universe, and you have these lights in the fucking sky, and okay, we have the sun and the moon. The sun gives us heat and light in the day. The moon gives us light at night, and it's good for making calendars. All right. What about these other lights, though? They must mean something. They have to mean something for us, because obviously we're at the center of this whole experiment here. So you start to concoct stories about it. That makes sense. In a world where you think that the Earth is the center of the universe, where these stars were in the sky when you were born must mean something for me. But now that we know they don't, why we hold on to this? Why? Why does this even exist anymore? I don't get it.
It's incredible to me, because astrology. So there's people who are just oh, it's just fun nonsense.
Right? Yeah.
Cool. I play fantasy football. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
But the people who actually believe it, it's just
insanity.
It's dumber than religion. Because at least religion is oh, this has been around for thousands of years. Someone's got to be right. It's at least, but with this, it's just you're telling me that everyone who just happened to be born in this month is having their just everyone. I've met people who were born the same month as I am. They're incredibly different from me, and you're telling me that they're the same, and that has from a fucking young age, that has never made sense to me. I remember just reading those things. I was I don't understand. Why? My buddy is nothing like me, and he was born a day after me. I don't understand how this applies to both of us.
It's all just based on magical thinking and confirmation bias. That's it. The entire thing is based on that shit. And it's always weird to me when people was you know what I hate? I hate this so much, is that you'll be out with a group of people, you'll be talking, and then someone will mention, hey, I'm a Libra. So I knew it. I knew you were a Libra. I knew it. I've seen that a lot. You know what I've seen very little of? You know what I suspiciously never really see? Oh, we've been talking for 30 minutes. You're a Sagittarius. You're a Taurus. You're a Scorpio. That never happens. I see a whole lot more of the I already knew it. I hate that shit. So I'll lie about it. I'll just say, just fuck with them. It's like Whoopi Talks like, I'm a Capricorn. I knew it. Bullshit. Actually, I'm not a Capricorn. So what are you gonna say about that now? Like that's fun to do. That's because they'll always do it. It's like I just can't believe like smart people are like, yeah, this stuff is real. Then again, I say this shit about religion too, and even more people buy into religion than astrology. So I
say that about religion all the time. Like there are very intelligent people who spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of their lives proving religion and like doing research and archaeological digging and all these things. And it's like, but you haven't solved the basic fucking contradictions of the religion. Like you can do all this shit for me, but you really haven't like just addressed the basic questions. And you're just like, well, it's a wizard did it. Like that's the end. They will go tooth and nail to like validate the exact day and carbon date this artifact. But then it's like, hey, so hell kind of fucked up, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. God works in mysterious ways.
Well, there's a reason they do that shit. There's a reason they focus on, like, there'll be this big news. Did you see the news article? They found Solomon's temple. They found coins with David's. It's like, all right, fine. David was real. Great. Show me God is real. That's the important question. I don't give a fuck if King David was real. I don't care about any of that shit. Human beings exist. Kings exist. I'm well aware of this. Show me that, a triune deity who spoke reality to existence exists. That's what I'm interested in learning, because that's what you're basing this entire thing on. And people keep doing it. It's just, it's frustrating. But you know what? It's none of my business, usually, until they start implementing it into politics and, bullying people and shit like that. I'm amazed at what convinces people. Like, I'm shocked sometimes to see what convinces people. It blows my mind. I knew this girl years and years ago who said that she was able to see ghosts, and I'd be hanging out at her house or whatever. And she says, yeah, I talk to ghosts. I see them all the time. And she's like, yeah, like I was just talking to a ghost today. And I was like, all right. She was like, yeah, while I was here. She goes, oh yeah. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. These ghosts, can they see? Like, can they see what's around you? She says, oh yeah, like they'll point at a picture and say that this person's been thinking me. And she was like, all right, check this out. I'm over here all the time. Next time I'm here and a ghost appears, let me know. I'll walk into the room. I'll put my hands behind my back. Ask the ghost how many fingers I'm holding up. If the ghost can do that correctly 2 or 3 times in a row, I'm going to start believing you. Guess what? Ghost never showed up again. Ghost never showed up. Weird how that works, right? It's like, just give me a simple experiment and you can tear this entire thing apart every single time, but they keep saying, I don't understand.
It's literally just like those scams.
King David was pansexual. I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
I believe it. I have no frame of reference.
I don't know
why King David was a pansexual, but I believe it narrated.
He had a best friend named Jonathan that a lot of people was like, David spends a lot of time with Jonathan, so maybe that's what I'm talking about. Okay, that might be it. But
yeah. Well, that wouldn't. But I mean, a gay. Like I buy gay, but pansexual is a very specific.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I feel like people didn't. So like pansexual didn't exist then as a definition. So like.
I don't know, because like our concept of homosexual and bisexual and straight didn't exist either in a lot of cultures. Like that's kind of unique. Yeah.
So if you were saying, oh yeah, most people at that time were pansexual. That's just the way it works. That I would also just be like, yeah, I believe that. I'm not going to like question it. I'll just believe you at face value until until I see evidence to the contrary. But like, that's a very specific claim. So narrator, if you have any other information, I am interested. I'm more interested in how we know King David was a pansexual than I am in the fact that King David was a pansexual. What the fuck were we talking about?
Religion, believing ghosts and shit. I was talking about
the Bible said he laid with Jonathan, maybe by. There we go.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
That's who I'm named after. So that's
there you go. Jonathan was a great character in the Bible. I always thought Jonathan was cool. And I don't know if people talk about him, but Jonathan was always down. He was about like, David was like, hey, and the thing was that Jonathan was Saul's son, and David was supposed to replace Saul as king, which meant that he's stealing Jonathan's job. And Jonathan's like, yeah, cool by me. I don't want to be king anyway. Like, wow, all right, this guy's pretty cool. I was thinking of another story about, I love like proving this supernatural shit wrong is just so easy. It's like just a simple experiment. Show me proof. That's it. I had a girlfriend who said that she could read energies. She said that, I can look at someone and I can feel their energy, what kind of person they are. And she was saying that, sometimes when you're coming down the stairs, I'll know it's you instead of, my son. Or I was like, well, yeah, of course you do, because, of the weight of the person and the gait coming down the stairs, you recognize how people walk. And so she's like, no, you say it's that, but I can feel the energy. That's how I know who it actually is. And I said, okay, let's do an experiment here. I'm going to stand in a room and you walk in blindfolded, or no, either me or your son will be in a room. You walk in blindfolded, take one step inside. Will you be able to tell just based on our energy who's in the corner? Like, how often do you think you can get that right? Because look, if you get that right with that either I'm in the room, he's in the room, or no one's in the room, and you can get this right with anything better than 33% chance, I'll believe what you say. And she's like, oh, well, you know what? I'd rather, yeah, of course not, because it's bullshit, because you can't detect people's energy. It's not how this shit works. Like, I don't know, but people keep saying that, like, the reason you can feel people's energy is like subconscious things you recognize through people's actions, like how they're moving, how they're standing, micro expressions on their face that you're not really noticing, but it's not fucking spirit energy. People, it's not real. Like, God, it's so frustrating. I get so mad about this, and I shouldn't, but I hear people say it all the time. It's insane.
I do think there is, how do I put this? I think that the spirituality people are onto real things.
Yes.
That do exist, that we do not understand. And the thing that pisses me off is that they claim to understand.
Yes.
Like, if you told me, like, hey, yeah, no, there's plenty of shit we don't as humans understand, like animals behave in freaky ways that we don't understand. There must be something impacting them. I don't know what it is. Yeah, that's for sure a thing. Like, my dog, she's got like the only way I can describe it is a vibes detector, where like she knows who's a good person and who's not a good person. She just knows it at fucking sniff, and like it's accurate like 90% of the time. like just from seeing someone, she'll like either get defensive or be like totally cool with them. And I know which of my friends are assholes, and she gets it right. Like, she gets it right. And there's something beyond my understanding that allows her to do that. She knows when it's going to fucking rain. I don't know how she fucking knows it, but she does. There's something going on. We don't know what it is. There's other dimensions. Who fucking knows? But it's I guarantee you it's not what the fuck whatever spiritualist you're talking to. They're not correct. And I will take the field. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, I'll take the field, because that's what it comes down to. It's like, I mean, it's nothing you haven't heard before, I know, but so I understand why ancient people believed in gods. I don't fault them at all. It makes
sense. Makes sense.
I would too. In fact, I did.
Someone must have done that. I don't fucking know.
Right. Yeah. So you're outside and the ground starts shaking. All right. Tell me why the ground starts shaking. And I have two people, and one of them says, I don't know. I got no opinion on this. And the other one says, there's a giant man underground shaking. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go with the giant man. Like, that's a conspiracy theory is better than no theory at all. So we've had plenty of things we can't explain, and there are plenty of things we still can't explain. However, we've got religious and spiritual answers for a lot of these things. And over time, when we found out the real answer, like, oh, it's actually a natural phenomenon. Not one fucking time, not once have we ever had like a natural explanation for something. Oh, actually, it was demons the entire time. It was demons all along. We were wrong with the natural answer. So that's never happened. And I'm starting to suspect it won't happen. Like, I'm starting to suspect that's not going to be the case whatsoever. And that she might be responding to how you are around those people. This is why I say when people say that they can read people's energies. You know what a good example of this is? In the Army, I remember them talking about how, you know how you're out and you get the feeling someone's watching you? You kind of have that gut feeling. They said, I remember them training us, listen to that feeling. They say, because a lot of time you're right and you don't know it. And I remember thinking about why that would be the case. And so, like, I came up with, this is my headcanon theory here, that you're used to like this ambient sound around you that you can't really measure, but your brain recognizes it. And when something is off about that, like you're out in the woods and like the sound of the bugs like 25% less than it should be, your brain notices that. It's like, whoa, what's going on here?
Natural prey instincts.
Exactly. And so that's my theory on what happens. It's like, it's not something you consciously process. It's just something that you're used to when you like your brain is processing 100% of this. You're operating on paying attention to like 5% of it, but your subconscious brain is like, okay, something's up here. I don't know what it is. And that's your gut feeling. And of course, when we feel that, we can't explain it. We're like, must be from the great beyond. No, it's probably not. It's probably not. It's probably not some like ghost talking to you. It's probably just your human brain that's more complex than you could possibly imagine. And you're seeking to give agency to something that you can't understand. That's what like pretty much all spiritualism boils down to when you think about it. I mean, in my opinion, at least.
There is a very related thing that I've thought about a lot. And like there's a part of me, I'm like, it's definitely confirmation bias. Like I know it's confirmation.
Ton of confirmation bias.
But there's another part of me that's like, but it happens a little bit more often than I would expect if it was just confirmation bias. And what it is when you're looking at someone and they very immediately look up directly at you and make eye contact. And I've done it too, where it's just like I look up and someone's like looking at me and I make eye contact with them, and just happens to be the area I looked up to in that moment was exactly where the person was looking at me from. And like, I know, have you noticed this before? Because like, I know it's confirmation bias, but like it's bizarre how often like you're just looking at someone and they happen to glance up directly into your eyes. Like it doesn't make sense to happen by random chance.
I never really thought it was anything other than that. I really never thought, because that has happened to me, but I never thought it was weird, because it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't always happen. I mean,
it doesn't always happen. So it's very much not from, but just think about like all of the directions they could have glanced, infinite number of like angles they could have taken, and how often they glance up directly into your eyes. It just seems like it happens more than it statistically should.
I'm not
saying it's mysticism.
I don't know about that one.
But it does, maybe it's another. I don't know, but it feels like you can feel someone's eyes on you. And you know that you can feel someone's eyes on you in certain situations. You definitely can. And like there's other factors there, but I don't know, there could be something there, is all I'm saying. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, I just like, you'd have to go a long way to convince me it's magic that does that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's magic, but it could be a prey instinct. It could be a prey instinct that taps into another dimension that we aren't we're aware of. Who fucking knows? You know what I mean? That's what I say about the supernatural, is that I say that I don't believe the supernatural exists. Not only that, I say the supernatural cannot exist. It's impossible. I say that because if something was real, like a different dimension, and we could prove it, it would cease to be supernatural. It would just be part of the natural universe. So it would just be natural. Yeah. So like supernatural is just, a word people use to describe something that they can't explain and come up with an explanation that makes sense to them. An explanation that's sufficient, but not necessary. It's like, oh yeah, this is why whenever people talk about, so I believe that it's more likely than not that aliens exist in the universe. I mean, it's massive, like it's got to in some fashion. And I don't believe for a second that they walk among us, that they're here, and that, the people see alien craft. No, I don't buy that at all. And because even the most convincing story about a UFO, okay, sure, it could be an alien. It could be an extra dimensional traveler. It could be a time traveler. It could be a ghost. It could be a demon. It could be a fairy. It could be a robot from the future. Who knows? And so, like, just saying that it's an alien is like, okay, that's just a guess. That's not better than any other. It could be Batman. Who the fuck knows? Like, you're just making shit up. And so, I mean, really, like, I don't understand why people got, this is definitely aliens, man. It's like, no, you don't fucking know what it is. Honestly, all it is something that you can't explain, but you're desperate to have an answer for it, so you'll latch on to anyone you can. It's I don't know. It just seems like lazy thinking to me. I don't get it, and I see it all the time.
One of my favorite conspiracy theories that I truly do choose to believe deep down.
Oh, what's it?
Is that there are aliens, but like they aren't aliens. They're earthbound and they live deep under the sea. And the atmospheric pressure difference makes it so we've never come into contact. But like, if you look at like octopus, they have like human level social brain capacity, and like can survive theoretically infinitely deep. We're not, very, very deep. And it's like, it seems like there's a decent, like, I feel like if we're ever to encounter another form of sentient life, it is more likely to come from deep down in the ocean than
interesting. I like this.
And that's the one I believe in. I choose to believe in.
I like it.
Not much evidence to support that, but just it seems like just the speed of light being the universal speed limit. We're never going to see one of those infinite alien species unless someone changes that whole speed of light thing and get past it. But the atmospheric pressure thing, I feel like we can figure out eventually.
That one we can.
There could be a separate species living down there and existing down there that we cannot fathom and cannot have ever made contact with.
That's interesting. The Aquaman hypothesis. I like this. I like this. Octopus are pretty interesting because
I fucking love octopus.
They're incredibly smart creatures. Like and they have 9 brains, which is insane. Like each of their arms has its own fucking brain, which is something insane to think
about. Their
own
brain is massive. Like most of them is brain.
It's incredible. Like they're like they're really good at problem solving, and I mean, where wouldn't you be with a brain that large?
Yeah.
But like octopus, that's why I talk about people who say. Also, I think it's bullshit.
They communicate through touch. Like that's how sensitive their skin. They don't need to see something to replicate its texture and color perfectly. They just have to touch it, and no one knows how they do it.
Yeah, their replication skills are underrated. Chameleons talk a big game, man, but watch an octopus like completely copy, like not even the texture. They can't do that. They can mimic the look of the texture. Like it's incredible, like the stuff that they can do. And I always think it's bullshit when people say they see aliens and they just happen to look like us. They happen to have a head, 2 arms. So like, get the fuck out of here. There's no way that's the case. As like octopus are a great example of how you can have a very intelligent species or dolphins are a good example of this too, that are nothing like us at all. And the odds that an alien would like for some reason look like an ape, insanity. Like they have all the shapes it could take. And the thing about
octopus look like what you think aliens look
like.
Right. I would just like survey, like people didn't know what octopuses were, and just like, hey, draw an alien for me. Octopuses are very close to what
the short people with green skin and big head. No, come on. I'm sorry. Like, sure, they could look like that, but the chances that they just amazingly look just like us, it seems like you kind of made this up. But the thing about octopus that is great to me is that they're really smart, and I put them in the running to be like a successor of ours. Yes,
100%. In fact, I would say they're my most likely.
So I don't know. I put it in like a category. I don't know about my number ones. So I like octopus, elephants, chimps, and dolphins, or like in my A group or whatever. They're all incredibly smart, and they have like the elephant trunks. They can hold pencils with those things. It's pretty crazy.
Elephants are awesome too. Whales, elephants, and octopuses are way smarter than anyone thinks they are.
And the weird thing about octopus is that the octopus at a disadvantage because they don't live very long. Like octopus only live like 3 years, which is kind of bullshit. Like, I don't know, that's kind of fucked up.
But if an octopus, because the advantage octopus have over the other, so I feel like anything that would kill humans would also kill elephants. Like they're not survivable enough.
I see.
And it would probably also kill monkeys. Like I just can't think of a
thing unless it's like
sea
creatures have an advantage here.
If it's a specific disease that only kills humans, that's the only thing that wouldn't also kill elephants and monkeys. But
interesting.
Octopus, they exist all down there. We haven't found all of them yet. Like they can survive a nuclear holocaust because they're just in the ocean, and they, unlike dolphins, can walk on land. And so I feel like if there's some catastrophic event, octopus is my number one.
I like it. That's a good point. Did you know the reason most ghost stories come from Victorian era is that because that was when gas lines were made and there were gas leaks causing I mean, I believe that, but ghost stories existed way before that, though. I've always had ghost stories, right?
Yeah, ghost stories have, but I feel like the documented like ghost stories. I can believe there was an uptick in ghost stories.
I can see that. And like
the fun thing about the Victorian gas lines, and then we'll have to cover our topics because we're well past an hour. I love Wednesdays, so we just shoot.
I do too. Wednesdays are so fun. They are fun. I love it.
But the Victorian gas lines, they actually like caused people to kill themselves, especially women, at very high rates because all they had to do was stick their head in the oven, and the gas would just kill them. And when they literally like stopped that like specific type of gas in the gas lines, and it decreased the amount of women committing suicide by something.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's one of those like when people talk about like gun violence, like you can't count suicides. They're just gonna find a way to kill themselves. Anyway, no, the fuck they will not.
It's hard.
Suicide is like... a very. It's not just like like if you look at like suicide survivors, they don't actually often kill themselves. Like they kind of learn their lesson and don't do that again because it's a very specific moment. And even just like seeing an available option that's quick and easy, like a gun in that moment will cause you to kill yourself. If that gun isn't there, I'm not going to fucking like cut my throat. That's a lot. That's messy. That's a lot of work. I don't want to do it. And that's also why men kill themselves with guns more because, and this has been studied, women don't want to create a mess.
That's crazy, right? Yeah. That is crazy because like men kill themselves like 1,000 times more often with. And my thought, I was like, yeah, of course that's how I do it. It's the quickest and least painful way. But then it's like that's not being considerate. Your friends and family are gonna have to see your head.
That's why the women like the gas because
I know. Yeah, it's consider it even until the end. But it is crazy how like a minor obstacle will stop people from doing something like suicide. Like just a minor thing will stop them. It's kind of that shit is kind of wild. I don't know. Anyway, so one more. I was mentioning you said that changing those gas or those gas lines, whatever, decrease suicides. It's kind of like when they
narrator. Wait, put that up from narrator. Did you also read Humankind, or was it Humankind? No, it wasn't Humankind. It was a Malcolm Gladwell book. Because I think it was a Malcolm Gladwell book. But that's where I got that from. And it also mentioned the Golden Gate Bridge, where people fell off. I'll remember. And then they put up like suicide nets. And like they were so adamantly against putting up the suicide nets. And like study after study was like, no, you put up the suicide nets. It'll stop people from killing themselves. They put up the suicide nets and no one who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge attempted to kill themselves again when they were caught by the nets.
Yeah. I saw that in a documentary called The Bridge, a rather unimaginably named documentary, but it was about the Golden Gate Bridge. And there were like 23 suicides a year off the Golden Gate Bridge before this net went up. And they said the exact same thing. There was a guy who jumped off the bridge and lived, and he hit the water and his legs broke, and he was rescued by a dolphin. It's crazy. Like a dolphin just showed up. And like,
I'm believing in God. I'm believing in God.
Right? Yeah.
I don't care what. I don't care what anyone says to me. That guy, he can believe in God, and I will not judge him.
Listen, if I were him, that would be the day I gave up on human God and started worshiping dolphin God. That's what would happen if that was the day.
I'm hooking up with Hiroshima and Nagasaki guy, and we're starting a cult.
They're gonna start an Avengers team of unkillable human beings, but when they asked him, hey, you were so like depressed and down that you do like, what were your thoughts when you jumped off? So the entire way down, I wish I hadn't done it. Like, that's exactly what he said. And of course, I mean, that's your adrenaline kicking in. Your body is built to live, not to die. And so your brain's just firing on all cylinders like, oh man, you got to survive. But when you mentioned
kill yourself jumping, I can't like you're stuck. You're just stuck. There's nothing you can do.
It's not the one I would choose, but there's worse ones. There's worse ones.
There's got to be worse. I mean, if I got creative, I could think of plenty of worse.
Fuck no, man. Like, that's just your body screaming in agony for oxygen for 5 minutes. Fuck out of here, man. Not happening. But I had a kid I knew in college who killed himself that way. And I remember thinking, that is not the way I would ever go about it. But
it's actually shocking how common it is.
Like, right? It seems horrible.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is that when you talked about the gas leak and fixing that in the ovens, it reminds me of when they started making companies put like this bitter agent in the antifreeze, and then like the rates of women poisoning their husbands started plummeting across the country because they were putting antifreeze in his coffee or shit. That's what that reminded me of. So yeah, like small little changes like that, you can actually save a lot of lives. But yeah, we did run long today, but yeah. So earlier in the show, we had like no viewers for the first like 15 minutes was longer than usual, and then we got up to like 6 and then to 4. So this is pretty average. I like the starting later thing. I like this. This works a lot.
It just gives us time to get.
I feel
like we had a better conversation because I wasn't still just thinking about work for the first.
I know.
Minutes, you know?
I agree. All right, topics. All right, I don't have a lot here. I only have one thing that I actually want to talk about that I think could be a good one. Did you see that video with the Chiefs kicker? Talking at that college?
I didn't. I heard of it. I have not watched it.
Oh,
so
perfect.
I'm told. I think that's a great topic. Yeah,
that's gonna be a good one.
And
that's all I got.
Our guest tomorrow is a trans lawyer who takes pro bono work for, like, she's doing pro bono work for the I don't know if it's Columbia, but the campus protesters have been arrested. Like,
cool.
That's like what she fucking does. So I imagine that the gender analysis will probably be right up her alley. But yeah, that's perfect. And then anything else from that?
That's all I thought was interesting. Everything else was stuff we talked about. I couldn't find anything new that I thought was interesting. I don't know if you did.
So I want to talk about Biden's EV tariff on China. Did you read about that?
No, I haven't heard about
that. He's announced that he's going to be levying 100% tariff on Chinese cars, an EV specifically, which is really fucking dumb for so many reasons.
What?
Yeah. So that'll be.
I gotta read about this. Hey, what the rationale is? That sounds weird.
Plenty to discuss there.
Huh.
Then there was. I wouldn't mind doing a conversation about him just being in denial about the polls. That has been a thing that we haven't talked about too much, but like has plenty of things to jump off on.
He also, did you see he and Trump agreed to two debates? Did you see that?
And that was the third thing.
Oh, okay, all right.
That was the one. So we'll do. I'm just gonna put this together. So we got the Biden's poll denial. We have the Harrison Butker, and we have the EV tariff. And the debates. And
wait, narrator, do you mean export or import? Because the tariff is on our side, right? I mean, it can't be on China's side. We can't. Did you hear about Republicans blocking cancer research to own the lips? I heard about that. That's true. Can't let them get a win. Even where did I hear about that? I remember reading that they block cancer research. I'll look that up. That might be something.
Yeah, We'll narrow it down a little bit offline here. But Rachel, thank you for coming. Unfortunately, this is our shorter show. And we're already 16 minutes over. So Rachel, definitely be here tomorrow. It'll be 7:00 tomorrow. Usually it's 6:00 on Thursdays. Tomorrow we are accommodating our guests. So it'll be 7 to 9 tomorrow. And typically on Wednesdays, we'll be here from 6:30 to 7:30. For anyone to just come and shoot the shit with us for this. We gotta name this, Tito. We gotta find a name for our Wednesday show.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we'll come up with it. We'll get the brain trust together.
Let us know if anyone's watching this and they watched this all the way through. Give us a name. Drop it in the comments on this video. Let us know what we should call this segment, and maybe we'll give you credit if you come up with a good one. Thank you very much, guys. This has been The Left Wing.
All right, later.
Cool.